Hey there! In this video, I'm going to be sharing all of the amazing bookish things that happened to me on a recent trip to Portugal. Welcome back, literarians! This is the Literary Lori YouTube channel. I'm Literary Lori, and I am very happy that you're here. I started this channel because I wanted to create a community of fellow readers and writers who love bookish things, like myself. I am a traditionally published author of both fiction and nonfiction, but I was a reader first, and I'm still a reader. I'm a voracious reader, and I love books, bookstores, bookish travel, all the things. And so in this video, I wanted to share with you what happened when I went to Portugal last week for a quick trip to meet up with some family members from the States who were visiting. In case you are new here, I live in the south of Spain, and I've lived here since 2021 when I moved to pursue my dreams of being a novelist. Again, I've been a writer for a long time, but a journalist, nonfiction writer. So I upended my life, moved to the south of Spain so I could, live my literary dreams, have this global literary life, and write novels. Anyway, point being, last week I went to Portugal. I had no plans to do anything bookish. I didn't look up any literary festivals that were happening. Didn't even look up bookstores near the places where I was going to be staying. But I think I attract bookish things. Again, no plans. I wasn't thinking about working in any way. The way I wanted to tell you guys what happened is I'm actually going to do it in reverse order. I went to 3 places while I was in Portugal. I went to Lisbon, I went to Caiscais, and I went to Tavira, which is in the south of Portugal. So Lisbon's in the center. Caiscais is like a little town about 30 minutes outside of Lisbon, and Tavira is in the Algarve, the south of Portugal. So first, I want to tell you what happened when we went to the Algarve to the south, even though that was the second part of the trip, but it will make more sense this way. We really decided, let's make this a road trip going back, take our time and, visit the south of Portugal. So when we got to Tavira, it's an adorable little village town. I apologize to people who live in Tavira. I don't know if it's considered a small city, a big town, but regardless, it's a city town that's over 2,000 years old. It was founded by the Phoenicians. It looks old, but it's also beautiful, and it sits on a river. You have to cross a bridge, to get from one side of the city to the other. It's like a old Roman footbridge, actually. Beautiful city, village, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, we were just planning to spend a couple of days there. It was actually kind of this part of the trip was like a working vacation. But the first day we were there, I discovered that there was a book festival. The Tavira book festival was actually taking place during the time we were there. We were only there for 3 days. And I'm like, how is this happening? How did I manage to show up in this little village while they were having their book festival? And it's the south of Portugal, so it's hot. So they did their festival at night. So I went one night, crossed the bridge, went over to the festival, and it was pretty small for a book festival, but it was going on over several days, and they had speakers, and they had a big stage set up for different events that they were having. But every night they had tents set up where different bookstores were showing their books. I found, a bunch of books from Chimamanda Adichie, and there weren't a lot of new books, and I think I saw maybe just a few books in English, which of course, why do they need to have English books at a Portuguese book fair? But lots of used books, which were really cool to look through. Used books, used records, even old pens that I thought were really cool. So I didn't end up buying anything there, but it was just so cool to browse. I love browsing the book festivals and just seeing what kind of books people are reading. I saw a lot of contemporary, authors, American, British authors in translation, which also excites me to see all of the books in translation, to see how universal our stories are when we see them translated in multiple languages. So that festival was amazing. And again, I was just so surprised because I was like, oh, what am I going to do while I'm here? Hello, my favorite thing, a book festival. So that was Tavira. I highly recommend if anybody's looking to, see some smaller towns in southern Portugal, Tavira is a very cute town. Now, going backwards, where we stayed in the first half of the trip was in Caiscais. I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong. I apologize. So in Caiscais, we just rented a small apartment for the 3 or 4 days that we were going to be there. And wouldn't you know, right below the apartment, there's a adorable cafe, and 2 doors down is a beautiful used bookstore. Okay. I'm in heaven. I'm like in heaven. I can drink my coffee. I can write downstairs at the coffee shop. I can then go over to the bookstore, which you know I did. And I wanted to share with you all the books that I found in this bookstore. So this is an incredible bookstore. It's 2 floors. It's the kind of old used bookstore where you want to like get on your hands and knees and just like dig through everything, because like the table legs are literally stacks of books, that kind of thing. And in the basement, I mean, they have old maps, they have books from like multiple languages, English books, French books, German books, Portuguese books. Incredible. And so one of the things that I had to do as a expat immigrant, I had to cull my book collection down when I moved. I couldn't bring every book I had with me, and I was so devastated actually once I got settled into my new home in Spain, when I realized I didn't have so many of the books that meant so much to me. So now I am kind of rebuilding my library, and specifically when I go to used bookstores anywhere in Europe, I'm always looking for books by Black and brown authors to replenish my bookcases. And I have this secret side project, I call it Black Girl Biblioteca, where I really am trying to create a collection of, you know, important Black authors. I don't know what I'm going to do with it specifically. Sometimes I host book swaps here in Spain, so I do try to, you know, have a collection of really good books so that if we go to book swaps or I host a book swap, I have things to bring. But essentially, I am trying to rebuild my own library and again, create this idea, this Black Girl Biblioteca. So I'm always looking for Black authors. So look, I'm serious. I'm so excited. You're not going to believe what I found. Let's start with the best one. I found a hardcover copy. You can't see it, but here it is. It's Toni Morrison's Paradise. Yes. My goal actually is to collect the entire Toni Morrison, have her whole library, a whole Toni Morrison collection, every book of hers. So we'll see how long that takes me to collect. Then talk about collections. I found a Terry McMillan original. Terry McMillan's A Day Late and a Dollar Short. I actually read this a long time ago and I hate this cover. I think this cover is horrific. I don't know what version this is. It's like maybe a British version. But anyway, love to have a Terry McMillan collection. So got that. Then I found Ben Okri's The Famished Road. I became a bigger fan when I was in Ghana this year in March. So excited to have this in my collection. Again, my Black Girl Biblioteca, I have not just Black American authors, but I'm looking for, you know, global Black authors, which brings me to Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart, the classic of all classics. I was like, girl, hello, get it. I did. So excited. And of course, you know, I don't even remember when I read this so long ago, so I'm excited to have it. I'm going to read that again soon. All right. And then, now these last 2 I want to show you. So I found Peace Medier's His Only Wife. So if you watched my last video about books to, you know, If Then This That, If This Then That, domestic dramas by African authors, this is one of the books that I talked about, His Only Wife, and I think I compared it to An American Marriage. I did. And so like I said, I read this book in the library in Ghana, so I didn't actually have my own copy. Now I do. And I got this actually in Tavira. In the hotel I stayed in, they had one of those take a book, leave a book, take a book. I took this one. Thank you so much, Tavira, Authentic Tavira Hotel. I couldn't help myself. I could not believe it was there. Because again, it's very hard to find I dropped my glasses. It's very hard to find books by Black authors in Spain, especially, I mean, anything beyond, you know, the classics, so to speak, or the, you know, maybe New York Times bestsellers. So the last book I found, I have to say, it's not by a Black author. But again, like I said, I feel like I have the law of attraction for books that I think about or just bookish things. I also, in a previous video, in the books that made me a writer, my book lore stories, I talked about how I went through a romance phase, and I talked about how I was obsessed with this one romance writer named Kathleen E. Woodwis. And it wasn't until I did that video that I remembered how much I loved Kathleen E. Woodwis, and I, you know, read all her books, and she was such a significant part of my life. Like, she was my first like author obsession. I mean, I looked for her books, not books like hers, but her books, her name on a book. Can you believe I found one of her books, Kathleen E. Woodwis, A Season Beyond a Kiss. I actually don't think I read this. I thought I read all of her books. Maybe I did read it and I just don't remember, because again, I would devour these books so quickly. But I found this in this Portuguese used bookstore, and it was the first book that I actually saw when I started looking, and I had to buy it. It's insane. I don't know if I'm ever going to read it again. I don't know, but it's uncanny that I talked about this book, like talked about this author in this last video, a recent video, and then the book shows up just like that. I haven't been able to find a book by Kathleen E. Woodwis in the United States, much less in Europe, much less in a small bookstore in Portugal. What are the odds? What are the odds? Again, I'm still like, this is crazy. So these two books I recently talked about in videos on YouTube, and then I find them. I don't know. I think I'm going to talk about finding an envelope with $1 million in it. Wouldn't that be nice? Let's talk about what will we do with that. Anyway, so the last thing I got at that bookstore was this incredible, it's a reproduction, obviously, but it says O Negro, and it is the first edition. It's a reproduction of the first edition of this newspaper written by Black students in Portugal, and the original date was 1911. How cool is that? So it's the whole newspaper. I love this. You can see it, but sorry, it's backwards. I'm so sorry. But anyway, so that was my experience in Portugal. I'm like, how does all this wonderful bookish things happen to me wherever I go? Again, I think I'm claiming it. I'm claiming my literary Lori identity, and, you know, book festivals, bookstores that have the books I've been looking for years just show up, this pop up, you know, rent an apartment and the bookstore is right downstairs with the coffee shop next door. I feel bookish and blessed. Maybe that's what I should have named this channel, Bookish and Blessed. I do like that. Maybe. You know what? I was thinking about starting a new blog on my website. Maybe that's what it'll be called, Bookish and Blessed. All right, people. Thank you, as always, for showing up, listening, paying attention, watching my videos. If you want to, I don't know, hear more about my bookish travels or things that I discover in my travels around the Iberian Peninsula, if you have a book that you think I should be reading, let me know. I want to hear about it. And I definitely want to hear about if you are planning, hosting, or know about a book festival, a bookstore that you highly recommend anywhere in the Iberian Peninsula, because I will travel. I will travel for books. All right. Thanks, everybody. I will see you in the next video. Bye.